So Gothamites, the penultimate episode of Gotham is finally here, and that is it for present day Gotham, if you will. Next week we've got the time jump episode, so let's break down Gotham Season 5, Episode 11, They Did What? What is up, Gothamites? Welcome to my penultimate episode review of Gotham ever. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made any sense. But either way, this is my review for Gotham Season 5, Episode 11. It's just weird saying that because that was the last present day episode. And next week, we're going to get the time jump, literally 10 years. That was the last episode with Cameron beaconed over as Selina Kyle. Since, we're not getting her in the time jump as, she's being recast. For obvious reasons, like aging up, 10 years is quite a big thing. But this episode, what am I on about? Let's get to the episode itself. It was good. As I kind of said last week, the trailers give a lot away, so I felt like the whole time I was watching it, I didn't know everything that was coming around the corner, but I did feel like I knew a lot of what was going to happen. But it was still like a really cool episode. It was a great way to wrap up present day. Some of the moments in it were really, really cool. To name a few, like Bruce departing and leaving Alfred, Selina getting there just in time, and all these little checkpoint moments that just set up the future universe that is when Bruce Wayne is running around the streets of Gotham as Batman. So let's get straight into this, guys, but before we do, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more comic book nerdy videos like this, I'm sure after Gotham ends, there'll be something that you're interested in on this channel, whether that's, Titans, Doom Patrol, the Arrowverse, or Star Wars, something else. And other than that, like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. And I want to encourage you Gothamites to join my Discord server to talk about anything comic book nerdy, including Gotham, with me directly. Link to that will be in the description down below, along with my other links to like my social media, my merch, my Patreon. Check it all out. But off the top of the list, guys, the beginning of the episode, we had, Jim walking around kind of talking about everything, and the main part I want to talk about is Bruce watching over Alfred. We saw this moment in the trailer for this week's episode where he says, Nyssa Al Ghul is coming after me and Barbara because of basically what they did to Raish, and, we get the whole deal. We know why Nyssa Al Ghul is here now, to basically fulfill her legacy. And then we had Nyssa Al Ghul essentially toying with Barbara. You had little baby Papa Gordon there. She had the very blade that Bruce and Barbara, mainly Barbara, used to kill Ra's al Ghul, and essentially she just said that I want to raise maybe I'll raise the baby as my own, like an Al Ghul. It's kind of cool just kind of picturing that, because this baby Papa Gordon grows up to become a badass trained freaking Batgirl anyway. I don't know, I still thought that was like a little cool drop, like imagining Nyssa raising baby Barbara Gordon as like a League trained member. That would have been an Elseworld story. So this leads us into more things in the episode. Obviously the general had been taken over with a chip in his head, and he orders that commander to destroy everyone in the green zone, basically killing everyone in Gotham. He refuses that. Bane walks in and brutally takes command by snapping the guy's neck. But so far, this is what I mean. Everything we're seeing in the episode is, fairly standard stuff we've seen before. It's all leading up to the moment that we've kind of been waiting for, which is like, this is Gotham fighting off Bane on the wall, wondering what the heck is going on with the Wayne Enterprises building blowing up in the trailer. This is all the stuff I was just waiting to get past where we could really get into the meat of the episode. But no complaints so far. This was just all setting up. I really enjoyed Oswald and Ed's moments in this episode. Oswald just can't stomach leaving Gotham, even though he put all of his gold and his treasury on that boat. Gotham, he just can't let it go, and he won't let Bane take it. Now, Riddler disagrees and wants to leave. Oswald wants to follow his heart. So they do debate about it a bit, but essentially this just leads with Penguin walking away and then Enigma turning up anyway. Now we did see Nyssa Al Ghul, and I'm just going to jump straight to it. She obviously escapes on the submarine later, and Enigma said it needs 2 people to pilot it anyway. I think, you could just put that down to comic book logic for those who are just wondering about that Enigma made that up. Like, he didn't want to admit really that, he wanted to stay there for Oswald, and he could have actually probably piloted that submarine by himself, which is why, there's the plot hole, if you you will, that some people are pointing out that how is Nyssa getting away with Edward the dog then on the submarine later on in the episode. Now, I thought the bit of Lucius giving Bruce a bunch of Wayne tech was really, really cool. I loved how they name dropped it. Oh yeah, remember the Nightwing project? Because, you know, it was giving him EMPs like smoke bombs, signal jammers, but the Nightwing project is this next generation stealth tech, but it also serves as like a beacon to certain animals. And if you freaking look at my trailer breakdown of this episode, when the bats were coming out of the subway, I freaking knew they would do a Batman Begins. I think it was it Batman Begins? What was it? I can't remember. I think it was when he uses that device and he like falls through like the little like vent, like tornado of bats. And yeah, I just felt like it was kind of predictable. As soon as he said that, I knew in this episode when Bruce would use that device to either attack Bane's men or Bane himself. You know, in terms of bat defining moments, unless they do something like that in the time jump, I guess this is it. I don't necessarily mind it because Bruce, you know, is going out there to get trained now, and I could go and talk about this forever. And some of you may think that this isn't a good enough bat defining moment, and of course it could have been a heck of a lot better if we're not going to get another one, that is. But when he comes back and he puts on the suit of armor and he wants to be a symbol of, you know, fear for the criminals and stuff like that, maybe we'll just think of the bats. But, you know, I guess you can also add in Ivy's vision and how he saw bats in the cave. Maybe we'll just add it all together one day. But there's no like bat flying through the window and just be like, oh my god, there's no falling down a well or anything like that, unless we get it in the time jump. So the standoff moment that was teased at the very beginning of the season, and I remember when they were showing trailers for this season, it was like for Gotham, and then you saw like a load of the GCPD and all the allies like Enigma and Penguin fighting against Bane's men, the military guys just going up to the wall. Now this was quite quick. It was a cool piece of action, but like obviously we had the rest of the episode to get through, so it was pretty quick to the point where that started and Bane just fired the RPG and already they were flooding through, and Jim was just like, you know, we need to create something to slow them down, and Bruce was like, I'm on it. That led to the whole Wayne Enterprises building blowing up. Can't forget that this is how Penguin gets his monocle. Like that grenade went off and I guess a bit of shrapnel went into his eye, and even though we don't obviously see a monocle in this episode, I mean at the very end you could see he had something on his eye to protect it whilst it's healing, but by the time the time jump comes around you will see a very kind of comic book accurate Penguin because of that moment. But just going back to Enigma and Penguin again, I really did like their friendship and the way they were written this episode. Just, you know, that moment afterwards where he was just checking out his eye and the way they just were with each other, that reminds me of the good old days of Oswald and Ed. But a little bit more on this later when they had the knives behind their back. That was so cool and defines their relationship to a T. Now, what was the plan with Wayne Enterprises? Well, Bruce was kind of enacting Jeremiah's kind of maze plan a little bit, and I thought this was a cool throwback because they could use his battery, if you will, that was also used for a bomb, to blow it up. And I just really liked some of the lines they gave Bruce this episode, through just him reminiscing on Wayne Enterprises and how his parents would have sacrificed everything for this city, and they did even. So like he's going to do the same thing, whatever it takes for Gotham, and that's why he's okay with blowing up their freaking family company building, even though this also sets up the story for the time jump where the billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne is returning to Gotham for the opening of the new Wayne Enterprises tower. Now guys, the part I was kind of worried about in this episode, Nyssa versus Jim. I didn't know how it was going to go down. I didn't like the idea of Jim defeating an Al Ghul, somebody who's trained in the League of Shadows in this universe. It just didn't seem right to me if he somehow beat her, but the way they wrote that scene was believable, and I was very, very happy with it, because essentially we had obviously Nyssa versus Jim. He handcuffed her, which was fair enough, and with Barbara having League training and having a dagger slid to her, she's a badass. She was trained by the Demon's head himself, so I completely believe that, even though they've thrown a lot of her League-esque Days stuff away, that was still, I was really thankful that it went down that way. And also I loved how Nyssa had a failsafe, which was the general to, you know, kind of put a gun to his head and end himself, which as a result meant that they couldn't reverse the invasion order. And that I don't know, I just felt like all of this was a lot better than what I was anticipating, and it added a lot more to the stakes, because it's like, well, if the general can't reverse the invasion order now, what are they going to do? They're going to have to defeat Bane and his army, and the odds of that happening were very low, because they had like 31 people versus a few hundred, and yes, I know Wayne Enterprises blows up, and I guess that cuts a few people off, and I guess they didn't really address if it killed anyone. I'll leave that to you guys in the comment section, but yeah, there was still a whole firing squad left. But of course, guys, after Wayne Enterprises helicopters kind of blew up and everything like that. Bruce and Selina are on their way to get back to the GCPD, but that's where Bane kind of came out of nowhere. I really enjoyed the double kind of team up action with Bruce and Selina versus Bane. He didn't really know where he was getting hit, but and then, you know, he kind of, you know, did, and this was very risky because you know, he obviously had Selina in his grip, and just a little bit of pressure would have popped her head, and we all knew she was going to be fine. This is the thing with moments like this, even though it's Gotham, they're not going to kill Selina Kyle or characters as core to the Batman mythos as that, but it was still like interesting because this gave the point for Bruce to put that freaking stealth tech on Bane, and so the bats came and absolutely you know, hoarded him, and he was just getting scratched up left, right, and center. And as I said, you know, bat defining moment, up to you guys. What do you think? If this is their bat defining moment and we don't get another one, I don't think there will be another one, to be honest, in the time jump. Is that good enough for you guys, for Bruce to base his whole symbol on that? But either way, this was a cool way to defeat Bane, because no matter what, if it's just a few bats, that would be overwhelming to heck. If you guys know me, one of my favorite things about Gotham is the Bruce and Alfred moment. So when we had that moment between Bruce and Alfred just before, you know, they stood off against Bane in that final confrontation, where he was just like, you know, you're a soldier now, a soldier for good, and Bruce is like, it's my time, it's time to protect Gotham. And I just love moments like that, but we've still got another moment to talk about towards the end of the episode. But just before that, guys, we obviously had the Jim, Bruce, and all the other villains, or allies, if you will, standing off against Bane and his firing squad. Now, I did predict this would happen. It was kind of obvious anyway from the behind-the-scenes photos from, like, photographers and stuff. But, you know, Gotham comes together to unite against Bane. Now, like, Bane orders them to fire. I guess I thought this would go down a bit cringier than what I imagined, because I was like, I'm not sure if I want that to happen, like everyone just standing up against Bane, and then Bane's like, oh, I guess I can't do anything. But it did, I have to admit, like, even though I was worried about that, it was a nice story about Gotham uniting together to say screw you, Bane. But it made even more sense than that, because those soldiers that Bane took command of weren't loyal to him. They didn't have to follow him. So when he told the firing squad to fire, because that's the whole thing I was thinking of the whole time, I was like, god damn it, I want to enjoy this, but like, they could just fire at them. They could kill them all. Why isn't that happening? And that's because, of course, they're not his men. He went in there, snapped their commander's neck, and obviously they were all terrified of him. But when there's the whole of Jim Gordon and allies and Gotham City behind him, and there's some guy giving you orders, and you don't want to kill a load of innocent people, that made sense. So I really like the way that closed up. So then we had Nyssa getting away in the submarine. They teased that Edward is just going to bite her face off. I mean, he isn't, but you know what I mean. She gets away, and this is that was allowed to happen just because it gives Bruce a purpose to return one day after he's been trained. He needs to be ready just in case she ever tries BS again. But it also just sets a story up in your head about the future and how our Bruce Wayne in this universe might go up against Nyssa and maybe even her sister one day. They'll be going up against each other as Batman and the Daughters of the Demon, and that's really epic to imagine. But other than that, we also had the naming moment of Barbara, and to be honest, no matter what anyone says, I was just like Jim. Like when she said Barbara Lee Gordon, I thought that was nice, you know, for the people who care about it. Lee was there for Barbara. We get that whole jazz, but when Jim's reaction was just like, oh, to Barbara, like we know her name's gonna be Barbara because that's Jim's like daughter's name, I mean, or the niece if you want to go way back. But yeah, I really appreciated that moment between Selina and Bruce on like the stairs of the GCPD, I think it was. And he just kind of, you know, what I just spoke about, Nyssa is still out there, gives, you know, him kind of an excuse for leaving and just getting ready. And also on top of that, he was just like, all of this happened because of him, or because of me, if you will. People are trying to hurt him and the people he cares about. So he just has to go. But, you know, it was a really special moment. I was even like tearing up in this moment just because, you know, it's like one of the last moments. And when he said, you know, she said, I'll always be here for you, and he was like, my parents used to say that. So I don't know, just really feelsy moment. It just made it even more bitter when Bruce was leaving on the jet and Selina got there just as he was flying away. So, you know, that definitely makes us all feel it in the feels, if you know what I mean. Now, one thing I really appreciated was that villainous setup for Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, and Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. Just because they were like, you know, despite saving this city, like, Nyssa got away with everything, and we're probably just gonna be branded nothing more than common criminals again. But they're like, you know what, F this, you know, we're gonna make a pact, take what we want, when we want, and just, we're gonna take this city like we always intended to when the dust settles kind of thing. But what was so poetic about this moment is that these guys really do care about each other, and throughout the massive amount of development between the seasons, they want to trust each other, but they don't know if they can trust each other because they both have flaws. So when they went to like hug each other, they had the knives behind their back, but the relief from one another when they knew the other one probably had a knife but decided not to kill them was even more nice, if you know what I mean. They were more relieved that they're like, okay, so this is going to be legit. We could have just killed each other, but we didn't. With whatever Penguin said, like start a path anew, or whatever he said. But either way, it was such a brilliant moment. But then, of course, we had the awarding ceremony with Bruce leaving. But just before that, of course, Jim was awarded the medal, but was also promoted to commissioner. So he's officially Commissioner Gordon now. Really appreciate that scene between him and Bruce. Like, Gotham's in good hands now. And then that all led up to the moment where Bruce is leaving on his jet. We had Alfred talking about how Wayne Tower is being reconstructed, and even Wayne Manor, so hopefully we'll see both of those in the Time Jump episode. And obviously, as we've already briefly spoken about, Selena gets a letter in a GCPD and only just gets there in time when Bruce is leaving. I found this very cinematic anyway. It was so awesome when Bruce was walking towards the plane, the jet, if you will, just because it was so dark. He was basically like a silhouette walking towards it, and he had just such a Bruce Wayne figure about him. You don't even know that he's 18 there. He could be in his 20s, or even as a 28-year-old time jumped Bruce Wayne. I just saw that guy walking towards the plane, and it was so Batman Year One-esque, if you know what I mean, that I didn't see a kid. I saw like a man walking towards his destiny. As cheesy as that sounded, it is so true. It was such a cool scene. Now, from the trailer of next week's episode, it looks like we're going to see a teeny bit of present day when he looks like he's in like Nanda Parbat or something like that, or basically it reminds me of a location where they did Batman Begins, where he obviously got the flower climbed up to the village on the mountain, but you know, this is totally Bruce getting training. But I will break that trailer down and it'll probably be out Saturday, so tomorrow. But other than that, guys, that is the review for the penultimate episode of Gotham. I did enjoy it. It was a good episode. No massive complaints, to be honest. I'm just very hyped for the Time Jump episode now, because that is going to be that is the final episode, and I feel like we may know a lot of what's coming. There will be another trailer coming out, not the trailer breakdown I'm releasing tomorrow, but there's going to be a Time Jump hype trailer, if you will, that I assume will be posting before the finale next week. So I'm guessing it might even be out this weekend, or at the latest early next week. But I'd love to know your thoughts, guys, on everything I spoke about in today's video. Do you agree with anything I said? Do you disagree? Do you have any thoughts to expand upon what I said? And what did you just think of the episode as a whole? Other than that, like this video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe if you're a brand new. Links, as always, are in the description down below to my Patreon. I want to thank every patron appearing on the screen. If you want to talk to me about Gotham directly, be sure to join a Discord server. That should be popping up on the screen, but also in the links down below. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you Gothamites in the next video. Goodbye.